going on, everybody? Welcome back to the ILLMented Reviews. I'm your host, Mood616, and thank you once again for stopping in, guys. Alright, episode 11 is coming at you live, and like I said at the end of last review, we're going to get back into some Shaw Brothers goodness here, and yeah, very, very excited to talk about this one today. It's a film I've seen a few times over the years. Most recently, 88 Films actually put out this Blu-ray, I want to say maybe 3 or 4 years ago, something like that. So I had recently watched this one, and of course Arrow was kindly enough to send one over here to review, and we are talking about the 8 Diagram Pole Fighter. Yes, directed by Lou Carling. I always say his name wrong. He's a classic director. He directed like Spiritual Boxer 1 and 2. He actually did The Legend of Drunken Master with Jackie Chan in '94. It was like the sequel to Drunken Master. And he also did Drunken Master 3 in the same year, which is interesting. He was a classic actor himself. He did millions of films. He did The Return to 36 Chambers. Actually did like all the 36 Chambers type movies. Actually, I think they even say on the back here, the 36 Chambers, Shaolin, among films. So many classic films directed. Of course, this one right here is starring the amazing Gordon Liu and Fu Sheng, who actually unfortunately passed away during the making of this movie, which I will get into later on into the review and stuff like that. But very, very classic stuff. Shot in 1983, came out in 1984. This is kind of like the twilight years of Shaw Brothers. I always called the golden years of Shaw Brothers, because when you think of Shaw Brothers films, you always think of like the late 60s and through the 70s, but they did make a shit ton of movies until about the mid 80s and stuff like that, maybe until later 80s and stuff. But yeah, this one in 84 was kind of at that peak. But all right, so get into the synopsis of this movie. Basically, we have the Yang family. They are basically betrayed by one of their own to the Mongols, who ultimately end up killing like 5 of the 7 brothers in this battle. Of course, there's 2 brothers that survive, played by Gordon Liu and Fu Sheng. Fu Sheng like completely loses his mind after this battle. He ends up going back to his mother's house with his 2 sisters, and he's completely lost his mind and everything like that. Can't deal with the loss of all his brothers and his family, and being betrayed by one of their own generals and stuff like that. And of course, Gordon Liu, he takes off also, and ends up at this monk monastery where he wants to become a monk because he wants to change his ways and things like that. And ultimately, the 2 brothers are kind of hiding out because they're kind of portrayed as the ones that may have caused this betrayal, even though they know, and we know, that they didn't do it. It was one of their own that did this and stuff. So they're hiding out so they can basically, figure out the truth to kind of testify against the ones that had done this wrong and stuff like that. Later on down the road, one of the sisters actually ends up getting him kind of almost like abducted by the Mongols and stuff, which forces Gordon Liu to, go out there and do battle against the Mongols and, take back their dynasty and stuff like that. So, but yeah, so that's the short and long synopsis of the movie. Now, my thoughts on this one. This is such a classic movie. It's such an incredible film. Now, the first thing I want to say is that the storyline, the core narrative here is actually taken from like true kind of events, true mythology based on the Yang family. And the mythology goes that they were betrayed by one of their own, and 5 of the 7 brothers were massacred. Now, in the storyline in the film, they don't actually have the father commit suicide. And I think in the real story, he commits suicide, which allows the 2 brothers to escape somehow. I'm not really too sure about the whole storyline, but in that reel, that's what happens. But in here, I think the father's already dead and stuff like that. But yeah, so this whole family was betrayed, and these 2 brothers, they survived and things like that, and against these Mongols, and they were the ones that had to kind of protect their family and protect the whole dynasty and stuff like that. So it's kind of all here and stuff. Now, the sister played by Kara Hugh. Oh man, she's batshit in this film too. She's like something else also. But my thoughts on the overall film, it's fantastic. It's got that typical Shaw Brothers costumes and set pieces. And, that's the thing I like about Shaw Brothers movies, is that they don't really sway away from that typical Shaw Brothers type look and feel and stuff. The choreography of the fight scenes is fantastic in this. Gordon Liu is just outstanding in this movie. He's really, really great. Fu Sheng, it's such a pity that he passed away in a car accident during the making of this film. Now, getting into that, there's an interesting story with this too, because Fu Sheng was actually supposed to be the star, the hero of this movie, who ultimately ended up being Gordon Liu. who become the hero slash the monk in this film. So when he passed away in the car accident, which they had filmed actually quite a bit of his scenes in this film, they had to reroute the whole narrative and change it up where Gordon Lau became the hero because he was the Fu Sheng character before, who was with the mother and stuff like that. So they had to flip-flop. Now, Gordon Lau is amazing in this film. This movie has one of the greatest third act choreographed fight scenes of all time. I'm not saying Fu Sheng wouldn't have done an incredible job also, but Gordon Lau here pulls off an amazing performance through the whole film as the monk, as this this guy that's going through torture in his family. He just lost his entire family. He's hiding out. He's got to change his whole identity and stuff like that. And he pulls off this character so well. But losing Fu Sheng in the making of this film was just such a damn shame, because it would have been curious to see him also battling in the third act. And that's what I kind of miss, because in the narrative it's kind of strange too, because once it gets down to that, once Gordon Lau's character has to go defend his sister and his family against all the Mongols, there's no mention of Fu Sheng's character in the film, which I think is kind of strange that they never mentioned, like something, could have happened to him in the narrative, but he ultimately is not there in the final battle scene. Now, if you didn't know the history with the film when you're watching this, you'd be like, where the fuck is Fu Sheng's character? Why is he not there defending, his brother and his family against the Mongols and stuff? They just don't mention it at all. So if, like I said, if you didn't know anything about the backstory of the film, you'd be very confused on why his brother's not helping out. It seems kind of odd, but that is why he's not there. He passed away, unfortunately. There actually is a kind of a short film dedicated to Fu Sheng's, him in real life and the films that came before this one and stuff like that, which is awesome. So, but really, really great movie, man. I think Fu Sheng's awesome in this film too, because he's obviously devastated by the loss of his brothers and his family, and he's very distraught because his family, somebody actually just totally betrayed them and stuff. He's crazy as shit in this. His performance is hilarious. It's awesome. But what this movie is really well known for is one of the greatest final act fight scenes of all time. So Gordon Lau's character, he gets trained by these monks, and these monks don't necessarily kill people. What they do is they basically break wolves' teeth. They call it the wolves. They break their teeth, and then that's what makes them go away and stuff like that. And it all plays into the final fight scene in this film, where they use their poles, their staffs, and they ultimately break hundreds of guys' teeth in this great fucking scene. And I gotta say that it's probably the most broken teeth in the history of cinema in one fucking scene of all time. It's outrageous. It's awesome. It is pretty bloody. It's gory. It's violent. The fight scenes are high paced. It's really, really well done throughout the whole film. I just wish we had got more Fu Sheng in this, man. There's some awesome scenes in the beginning, in the first act of the film, maybe the first half of the film and stuff, but it would have been so great to see him in the final of that with Gordon Lau too. But awesome movie. Another thing I really like about this, and it's probably based on the mythology and the narrative being kind of based on real events, is that this one's played straightforward. There's no comedic elements to this whatsoever. It's played dead serious. All the characters are very distraught, and they really just want to get to the bottom of this. So there's no comedy elements to this whatsoever. There's a really great scene in this film where Gordon Lau is trying to prove to the monks that he wants to become one, and they don't really want to let him become a monk because he's still got that violent tendencies. He still wants to kill, and basically he's like, I'll shave my head, and he takes this blade and he just starts cutting off his hair, and he's shaving his head with almost like a straight razor, which I don't think they had straight razors back in the time this was supposed to be taking place, to be honest. I don't think they were invented till later, but he's using a knife and he's just shaving his head, and it looks so damn painful, but it's such a great scene. It just shows the ambition and the how much he really wants this and stuff. It's fantastic stuff. But if there's one reason to watch this movie, it is to see Fu Sheng's last performance, and also Gordon Lau and Kara Wee's performance in this film, man. The choreographed scenes are so cool. It's like nothing you ever seen. But the teeth breaking, it's all about the teeth. There's so many teeth breaking. It's amazing. It's just so outrageous, man. It's so cool to see. But yeah, the 8-diagram pole fighter, awesome movie. I love this one. It's 100 minutes that just flies by. Like all Shaw Brothers movies, the storylines are all very, very similar. There's always betrayal. There's always kind of revenge. There's always that type of aspect that's going on. It's no different here, but it's just very entertaining throughout the whole thing. But yeah, so It's the original artwork, which you guys will probably see in the cutaway anyways. As for features on here, this one actually says it has a brand new 2K restoration, so I'm assuming it's different than the 88 films transfer that came out, unless it is the same and they're just saying they're brand new, maybe it was done by Arrow. I don't know. I never compared the two, which I do have both of them. It does have the dub. It has a commentary on here. It's a brief history of China, newly filmed, appreciated with the critic historian. We have a tribute to Fu Sheng on here. It's a short film commemorating, his acting roles prior to this film and stuff like that, which is very cool. It's got a German, and then alternate openings, credits, things like that, theatrical trailer and stuff. So not a whole lot of features, but there is enough on here. It's definitely worth checking out the tribute to Fu Sheng on here. But you gotta, if you have to see one Shaw Brothers movie, I would highly recommend this one from the Kung Fu catalog, the fighting catalog. I mean, they also did horror films and things like that too, which I'm very excited for Human Lanterns that coming out. I actually have a DVD of that. I love that movie. I'm so excited to see it in high def. It's gonna be awesome. So, the 8-diagram pole fighter, done by classic directors, starring a couple classic, actors. You can't go wrong with this. 9.5 out of 10. I think it's almost perfect. I think there's a couple parts in this film that maybe in the middle it kind of lulls a little bit, just for a second. Nothing major. Not really any complaints to this one. It's a fantastic movie. So, 8-diagram pole fighter. Check it out from Arrow Films. It's fantastic. And that is going to conclude the review here. I will be back soon with some more on both reviews. So on Random Horror Reviews and ILLMented, I'll be back with some more on both of those. So anyways, guys, check you guys later. And as usual,